Imagine a doctor who prescribes medicine without knowing anatomy. Imagine an architect who builds a roof without knowing gravity. You would call them charlatans. Yet, for centuries, this is how we've treated laws. Comte's treatise on legislation isn't just about laws. It is an autopsy of human society. He finds his predecessors defending a bad case, inventing systems that never happened, talking of divine right or general will. Comte says, stop imagining, start observing. Just as physics studies matter, legislation must study the properties of man and the true results of laws. His goal: find the causes of prosperity or decline. If a law produces misery, it is a bad law, not because a book says so, but because of facts. What is a law? Most of us think it's a sentence written in a codebook. Comte disagrees. He argues a writing is merely a description. True law is a power, a bundle of forces, opinions, needs, and government strength. If a government decrees do not eat, the law of hunger destroys it. Fighting natural laws is like a child trying to stop a river with his hands. Before building the new science, Comte clears the rubble of the old. He takes aim at the giant of his age, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau claimed society is based on a contract. Comte scorns this fairy tale, asking, in what country has this ever happened? Men don't form societies by contract, they form them by necessity. We are born into societies just as we are born into families. Comte warns that Rousseau's general will is dangerous. If the majority is always right, it can tyrannize a minority and call it liberty. Next, Comte attacks Montesquieu. You know the theory. Hot climates make men weak and destined for slavery. Cold climates make them strong and free. Comte calls this lazy thinking. Civilization didn't start in the frozen north. It started in the hot valleys of Egypt, India, and Babylon. If Montesquieu were right, the peoples of the far north should be masters of the world, and the Greeks and Romans should have been slaves. Climate, he argues, is just an excuse. We say those people are lazy because of the sun. Comte counters, no, it is not the sun, it is the whip. Comte then moves to the delicate subject of race. He examines his classifications of his time and asks, is one race naturally superior? He looks at the evidence. He sees the magnificent ruins of Upper Egypt, the complex astronomy of the Mexicans, the philosophy of India. His conclusion? You cannot judge the potential of a race by looking at it while it is in chains. That is like judging the speed of a horse while it's tied to a post. Now we arrive at the heart of the treatise: domestic slavery. Comte will prove it is suicide for the society that uses it. This creates a rupture. In a free society, effort leads to reward. In a slave society, the master consumes what the slave produces. This ruptures the mainspring of human action, creating two pathologies: the arrogant idleness of the master and the hateful apathy of the slave. What happens to a man who owns other men? First, he learns to despise labor. Any physical exertion is considered degrading. By delegating all interaction with nature, the masters lose physical competence. They become helpless, like fattened livestock in human form. The rot spreads to the mind. Intelligence is a tool we use to solve problems. The free man innovates. But the master solves every problem with one tool: force. His intellect is consumed by pleasure and fear, not creativity. And what of the slave? Slavery is a systematic machine for crushing human intelligence. It was often a crime to teach a slave to read. The slave becomes the enemy of the work. He breaks tools, works slowly, and hides his intelligence. These are the logical defenses of the oppressed. The moral devastation goes deeper. Slavery destroys the family. A mother sees each of her children sold, losing even the hope of knowing what became of them. And for the master, unlimited power corrupts his own family. The house becomes a school of vice, teaching cruelty as the norm. Now we arrive at Comte's most brilliant insight. Defenders claimed slavery was necessary for cheap production. Comte proves the exact opposite. He proves slave labor is the most expensive in the world. How? You have to buy the man, a huge capital cost. Then you must maintain him. You must pay for fare, overseers, whips, slave catchers. And the slave works only to avoid pain, making him inefficient. It costs more. If slavery is so expensive, why did they do it? Because of monopoly. They forced the mother countries to forbid trade with other nations. The French were forced to buy sugar from Martinique for 50 francs when they could have bought it from free labor for 35. Who pays? You do, the consumer. The economic ruin leads to political weakness. A nation with slaves has a permanent enemy within its own borders. It is a besieged fortress. If a foreign army invades, what happens? In a free country, citizens defend their homes. Here, the slaves welcome the invader as a liberator. Finally, slavery destroys justice. You cannot have a society half free and half slave without the slavery corrupting the freedom using double logic. Justice becomes hypocrisy. The laws are based on the selfish interests of a caste. The habit of tyranny is hard to break. Some hope to soften slavery with religion. Comte exposes this as a contradiction. Christianity teaches duties to God. Slavery demands duty only to the master. If you teach a slave he has a soul, you teach him he is a man. And if he is a man, he cannot be a thing. There is no middle ground. So what is the remedy? Comte, a realist, says the transition must begin by changing the principle. You must grant slaves the right to own property. If a slave can own money, he can buy his freedom. If he buys his freedom, he learns the value of work himself. You replace the whip with the wage, you replace fear with hope, you transform a hateful slave into an industrious, hopeful worker. Charles Comte's treatise is a warning across the centuries. It teaches us that you cannot build a prosperous nation on injustice. The bills always come due. There is only one path to true wealth and strength: justice. Not because it is nice, but because it is the only system that aligns with the laws of human nature.